Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tony Talks, Get Up and Grow, where I have conversations with inspirational leaders, influencers, and change makers. This is a conversation not just with me, but with you and my guest as well. Not just me and my guest, I should say. It is a very interactive conversation. So today, I have the distinct pleasure again of hosting for the third time a very dear friend of mine, Jan Hargrave. She is the foremost body language expert in the world, best-selling author. She's a trainer, she's a coach, she's a speaker. She's absolutely a dynamic individual, and I love spending time with her. Let me just bring her on screen. There she is, the one and only Jan Hargrave. How are you, my friend?
I am doing very good, and how are you? I know this is a good subject, so I know everybody's interested in this one.
Oh yeah, this is absolutely a great subject. I'm excited for it. I hope everyone here is excited about it as well. We've already got a few people on here. Hi, Josephine. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Liba. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here with you. And again, this subject is such a great subject. I actually tag business and entrepreneurs, and I'm hoping that anyone that's on here, by the way, if you deal with people, if you know people, if you are a person, you should, I'm going to ask early on, share this video because, or share this live stream, because there's going to be so much coming out of here. And basically, and I'm actually going to put my YouTube link on here as well, if anybody wants to just share this out to people, because what we're going to be talking about is how to spot a liar, right? And how great would it be to be able to know what's coming, see that guy coming when, that guy or that girl or that person coming, that's going to pull one over on you, and you can read them and you can know what they're going to say before they say it, or what they're really saying without saying it. I know it would have saved me millions.
Millions, yeah. I mean, Tony, the body gives away so much information, and think what's going on inside the head of a person when they're lying. They're not only having to think of their story and form in a correct fashion, they have to observe what's going on with you. And they're trying to see if you are accepting their story. So while they're thinking of the story to tell you, or while they're thinking of the lie that they're going to tell you, they're thinking, well, is this guy paying attention? Is he believing what I'm saying? Is my body language just right? Must I look at him too long? Must I look at him, just briefly? So inside the mindset of a liar, so many things are going on. But if you knew some of the technicalities of how to spot when someone's being dishonest with you, I think it makes a whole world of difference when you're going to negotiate with someone, when you're even going to maybe have to interview someone for a job, or that you go in an interview. So as I teach the body language, I say it's not only what you are doing that you have to be aware of, it's going to be what someone else is doing while they're talking with you. So yeah, I get into it really deep into it, and I'm going to get into it deeply with our listeners and our watchers today. Did I lose you?
No, I was just actually plugging into a little power. I want to make sure, because we are streaming, like I mentioned to you, on Instagram as well. But I'm doing it via my phone, so I just want to make sure that the phone doesn't die on us. No, absolutely. I think that let's get into it, because again, it's one of those topics that is so important. I mean, again, who hasn't been lied to? There's that white lie. There's
all kinds of lies.
And arguably, I will say, in one of the conversations that I love to have with people, and then I'm going to let you get into it, is one of the things that, where people lose self-confidence in themselves. And that's something that we can talk about maybe a little further down this talk, something that I love to talk about. And I talk to kids, and I've spoken at my son's school, and I speak to kids about it as well, is we erode our self-confidence by the lies that we tell, because we start not to trust ourselves, right?
With the lies that we tell ourselves.
Yeah, the lies that we tell ourselves start to erode our self-confidence, start to erode our self-esteem, because we know that we're lying. And the crazy thing is, we tell a lie long enough, or somebody tells a lie long enough, they start to believe it is truth. And that's where narcissism starts to come in, and all these other things start to happen, right? So it's important to really be as honest as possible. And so many times we do it to try to protect people's feelings.
Correct.
You know what? It winds up costing in the long run. So with that said, I'm going to let you.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe just to give some background while people are coming on, because I don't want to give the juicy stuff right now. I want to make sure that the people who are coming on with us. so that when they are with me during this 45-minute hour demonstration, that they, when they leave us, they'll be able to figure out when they're having a conversation with someone on the phone or in person, that that person is telling them the truth or not, because you can even listen to the sentence formation of a person and figure out if that sentence that they're telling you is true and if it's not true. So just to give our listeners and watchers maybe a little bit of background about me, well, I am Jan Hargrave, and I'm what's known as the body language lady. And what I do is that I study how a person moves his hands, his arms, his eyes, and his shoulders. And then I interpret that and I tell you what's going on inside of his head. And I'm involved in jury selection. So that, and I specialize in how to tell when someone's telling the truth versus how to tell when someone's telling a lie. So that's why, you know, while we're today, I'll teach you how to spot when people are lying to you. Better yet, I'll teach you how to lie to someone and they won't even know that you're lying to them. So I can really, really mess our watchers and listeners up because, you know, I'm going to give you these gestures, but I don't want you to go and ask your husband a question. He does the gesture and say, oh, honey, you just lied to me because that woman told me that's a lie. So as we study body language, you know, one of the things that I need to get out of there and get out up front is, you know, things such as baseline behavior, things such as why do we move our hands, so that they can understand what are the hand motions that are associated with someone not being honest with you. So let me just mention a couple of things about why hand motions come into play. And then I'll give you all the hand motions about what people do when they're being dishonest with us. I'll teach you the types of lies that people give us. I'll give you the 4 most common lies that people say. I'll try to let you catch me in a lie when I'm going through this with you. And I'm going to give you a liar's test so that I can see how good you are at spotting liars as we go on today. So when we think about body language, and let me give the percentages again, just to give us a background with this. 55% of a person's communication is nonverbal, 55%. So that is why the moment someone sees you, they decide for themselves, do I like this person? Do I trust this person? Do I even want to have a conversation with them? So that's why your body language is so important. 38% of our communication comes from voice inflection. Just when your mouth goes, your voice goes up or down, that keeps people interested in what you're saying. And then research says that only 7% of a person's actual communication does come in the words that we say. And I know that our people watching have said, you know, actions speak louder than words, because we say so much with our bodies. And one thing that I want people to understand is this: your body does not know how to tell a lie. It is your mouth that tells a lie. You'll find out that while we're together, people actually move their hands a certain way when they lie. They move their eyes a certain way when they lie. They use micro expressions a certain way when they lie. And then they use the hands a different way when they're telling the truth, the hands a different way when they're being totally honest with you. The body language is pretty much different. So when you have a notice, when you have I would say an awareness of this, when you're having a conversation with someone and you know some of the dishonesty gestures, you should never, ever use these when you're talking with people. Because even if they have not been in a class of mine where I teach all this, if you did one of the dishonesty gestures too often, after a while, that person watching you would say, I don't know what it is, but I just don't trust this person. So that's why, even though you don't know every part of lying, you have to be careful that you're watching and not doing the ones that are really prevalent when you're talking with someone. So you have to be very careful of that. And so 55% is nonverbal, 38 voice inflection, and 7% comes from the words that we say. So now let me just give you some basic information about hand motions so that when I show the hand gestures of dishonesty, people will understand why it is. So think about why your hands move when you are speaking. Your hands move because they help you organize thoughts inside this huge thing called a brain or called a computer outside of your mouth. If I had to speak to you for 30 minutes and tie my hands behind me and not use them at all, it would become very difficult for me to organize my thoughts and get them out in a logical fashion. So that's why when you're talking, look, your hands move because your hands relax you. They let people see about your nice, sweet little personality. And all the while they're organizing thoughts within your head so that when you're speaking, you logically make sense. But there's a difference in why your right hand moves and why your left hand moves. And the reason that my left hand would move, so I'll take my left hand first. My left hand is operated, of course, from the right side of my head. And we all have to know this, that everyone on the face of this universe, our right brain is the creative side, the comical side, the animated side. Our right brain is the brain that daydreams. If ever you drove somewhere and you cannot recall how you got there, of course you drove their right brain. So when I am telling something to you that is either comical or that's made up or that is probably a lie, it's coming from this side of my head. And so therefore the motor skill that I use when I'm telling a lie is predominantly going to be done with the left hand. Not that left-handed people lie more than right-handed people, only because left hand is associated with this side of the brain that is the side that's creative and tells things that sometimes are not factual. When I move my right hand, of course, my right hand is controlled from the left side of my head. And my left brain, that's my math, that's my science, that's my history, that's everything that I ever learned. And so when I'm looking for concrete information, or if I'm looking to multiply numbers in my head and have trouble getting the numbers multiplied, I would end up moving my right hand. It would help clarify what's going on in my mind, and then I could actually speak those words. So when you're looking at someone's hands, you have to notice which hand they're using when they're talking with you. And I'm going to give you the gestures that are associated with left-handed gestures that indicate dishonesty. But even if I teach you these, you should also never use the right hand to do these same gestures. It's not quite as bad, but it is indicative of someone who's nervous and someone who's just doing a ploy to get you to not believe exactly what they're saying to you. So as we go through this and as we think of all the stories, I just said, let me just find some kind of funny things to start it off with. You know what the four biggest lies, Tony, are? And you'll probably be able to think of the fifth one, but
before you go in, I'm just going to say this because this is funny. So
yeah.
You've been on here and I've seen you so many times and so many of our mutual friends have. And you obviously know Brian Bradley. And the other day I was on the phone with him and I was saying something and my nose itch. I'm like, I swear to God, I'm not lying. He's like, oh my God, isn't it crazy? Every time I see Jan, like, and if my nose itches, I got to get off screen or I got to turn around because I don't want people to think that I'm lying. You know,
I know.
It's the funniest thing.
Sometimes people say to me, they'll say, Jan, do you ever turn it off? And I say, I hope that I do, but I probably don't, because if I'm watching someone, any little motion that, like, since you and I have been talking, you did several motions, Tony. So if I was sitting there with you, I'd probably say, well, Tony, when you said this, you did this motion, so I'm doing it probably all the time. And as I often tell people, people say, Jan, it would be tough to be married to you because probably you can't be lied to. And I said, that's correct. Because I can tell Cecil, if he tells me something that's not true, I can catch him. Even on the telephone, I can catch him, but I'll teach you how to do that too. But yeah, so after a while, it makes people nervous. So let me give you the four fun ones, and you can think of a fifth one. Awesome. The four biggest lies. The number one is the check is in the mail. Everyone has said that a time or two to someone else. The next one is this won't hurt a bit. We've all said that one too. The third one is, have I ever lied to you? And the fourth one is, I don't remember. And I'm sure, Tony, you can think of that fifth one that people joke about and they tell us, and I don't even want to mention it because it's kind of silly and a little bit vulgar. So, but you can think of what are the biggest lies. And when men and women are thinking of dating each other, or women and women, or men and men, the number one lie that they tell before they even have their first date is, I'll call you. That is the number one male and female courtship gesture lie. The 10th lie of females and males when they're in a dating process is, I've never done this kind of thing before. But I'm going to give you basic concrete lies that people will do. So you've heard people say let me have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I'm going to start mine with my hand up, and I'll do that. But I want to tell you what's the difference between, because there's a difference between what is the truth, what is the whole truth, and what is nothing but the truth. So for our people who are watching, and maybe you too, Tony, you know that sometimes I'll do this. I'll say, raise your right hand up and pretend that you're in the courtroom getting ready to say, I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So your hand is up, and I'm looking at how your hand is, Tony. So your fingers are together. My hand is up, and my fingers are wide apart. So those of you who are watching, just do it for a second. You're in the courtroom getting ready to say this. So there are 5 things that we look for. Some people sit there and their hand and their fingers are wide apart, but the hand is straight up. Some people sit there, the fingers are tight together and the hand is straight up. Some people tend to bend the fingers forward a bit while they're talking with us. So I'll tell you what that says too. Some people put the hand up and they put 2 fingers together and 2 fingers apart. And then some people take their hand and they bend it backward. So those of you who are watching this, I'm going to give you an analogy of what each one is. This is the very first. My right hand up with my fingers wide together. Let's do this one first. When someone does this, this signifies that they are terrified and they will tell us the whole truth. So if ever you need to go to a courtroom, make sure that your hand is this way. It has to be straight up and down, the fingers wide apart. The way that you have your fingers, Tony, is perfect. It's called an analytical honesty. This person with the hands straight, with the fingers tight together, they're going to tell us the truth, but we're going to have to pull it out of them. So this is an analytical honesty, and it's very good. People who bend their fingers forward in any way, if they're bending it just slightly forward and they're on the stand this way, it is an indicator that they're probably going to lie to us. So when you do this with your spouse or your children, you might want to see how their fingers are. When someone has their hand up with two fingers together and two fingers apart, think about what it means. When fingers are wide apart, that is a readily type of honesty. When fingers are tight together, it's an analytical honesty. So this person gives us both types of responses. And then lastly, I bent my hand backwards this way. When someone bends the hand backwards in the courtroom, it says that they will try to bend over backwards to get us to believe them, but will be typically telling us a lie. So the fun thing about learning these 5 things is that when you see your spouse, you could say, well, honey, what did you do while I was busy with this webinar? And they begin to tell you, just say, can you finish telling me that, and put your right hand up and tell me what's going on. So you can kind of use that and you can have fun with it. So let's talk about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So let me tell you what the whole truth is. The whole truth is when there's a clause of morality that's involved in it. So a mother would maybe say to her child, did you eat the cookies when I told you not to? And the child would say, no, I didn't eat the cookies, but I ate the chocolate chips that you used to bake the cookies. So he's saying so much truth, plus he's giving something that he's saying, I'm a good person along with that. So that's what we call the whole truth. Nothing but the truth is where you just give nothing but the truth. So a woman would say to her husband, how do I look? And then he'd say to her, oh, baby, I always think you look beautiful. So in other words, instead of saying you look fat, you look skinny, he just is saying his truth. Oh, baby, you always look beautiful to me. And then what we call the truth, the truth is that when we really want to say something, our truth thoughts, but we don't say it. So maybe a grandmother would say, would you like to look at these pictures of my grandchildren with me? And, really you want to say, not at all. That would be the truth. But to be nice, you probably say, oh, yes, because really what she's just asking you is to reconfirm for her how good her grandchildren look and how beautiful they are. So the one that's called the whole truth is when there is a morality kind of clause that goes with the wording. When it's nothing but the truth, you're just telling what you know as truth there. And then the truth is where you would actually say what you're feeling. So Tony, if you'd say to me, Jan, look at these pictures of my children. And I just say, I don't want to look at the pictures of your children. I mean, that's giving you the truth right there. So that's the difference in the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then some other things that I think are quite important that we realize is that when someone comes into the courtroom, because most of my work is done either in someone's testimony, or an attorney will send me the testimony of a client and say, Jan, look at this person. He's accused of this, and we want to know in what areas you think he's lying and he's telling the truth. And that works really well for me, Tony, because when I am watching just you speak, I can note every single thing that I see. If I'm speaking to a big audience, think what's happening. I'm doing my speech. I may be talking about lying, but I'm also trying to gauge the audience, seeing if they're liking me or not. So not only do I have to teach it, I'm doing other things. So I'm better when I can just be in that courtroom or look at a video of you, and all I need to do is zero in on you, and there's no other factors around there. Plus, too, when I'm looking at someone's video to see if they're being deceptive or their testimony, I can play it back over and over and over again, and I can stop it at any point that I want and see what was the question they asked them, and maybe what was the behavior that I saw there that was probably not truthful. So with anyone that we question or that you question, you have to, first of all, before you start looking for lying gestures, maybe you're thinking someone's lying to you, but what you have to do is, first of all, establish a baseline behavior for that person. And by baseline behavior, I might say, maybe in the courtroom, we'd say to someone, could you slowly and accurately spell out your name? So you would spell out your name, Tony.
Tony.
Your whole name. Your whole name.
Like R-O, so I would say TonyRodriguez.
Okay, so when you would say that, I get a baseline reading from you. I would look to see how often do your eyes maybe blink when you're doing that? Do you have a twitch in your nose, your twitch in your cheek? And also I'd probably be able to see your hands or so. So I'd look in and make a notation of that. So for every person we start off, we ask them that, and we're starting to get a read on them. We have to get a baseline on them before we say, oh, they lied to us. Because What happens is this: once you get that baseline, and then you ask them a question that you think that maybe they have lied to you about, you look for a deviation from their baseline. For example, I had done Roger Clemens' body language for, I think it was Fox News, during the time that Roger was accused of taking some growth-enhancing drugs. So they sent me the video of Roger testifying, and I noted that while he was testifying, he was a constant lip licker. I mean, constantly licking his lips. And we're trained in the courtroom that if someone does this too much, it probably says that they're nervous and that they're probably lying to us. But I could not come on national television and say, I think he's lying because he licks his lips so much. So I had to go back and look at all this old video of Roger. And I noted when I looked at video of Roger years and years back, he has always constantly licked his lips. Whether he bats or he pitches, he's always licking the lips. So for Roger, that's baseline behavior. So then from there, I had to look for deviations from there to see in what areas I thought he was being deceptive. So before we go to anything about catching liars, you have to, you notice when they're talking with you, do they cross their right leg over their left leg? Do they cross their arms? Do they have a tendency to maybe want to scratch their neck when they're comfortable? Do they want to play with their hair when they're comfortable? So get a baseline on them, and then you go for deviations of that. So some of the information that I'm going to give you today is from FBI law enforcement, and this is from the U.S. Justice Department. I don't know if you can see it, but you can kind of see it there. I trained TSA officers in the division of TSA. There is a group of BDOs. They're behavior detection officers. So you might not notice them because they're walking in plain clothes and they're looking at people in line. They're looking to see if you're perspiring. They're looking to see what kind of luggage you have. So these are the group that I train. They're called BDOs. You'll always see they either have, I think, maybe 3 stripes now or 2 stripes now. And sometimes they'll be in uniform, but a lot of times they're not. So then what happens is they're looking at people. We don't think they're looking at you, but they're looking at you. And while they're looking at you, they're trying to detect any kind of abnormality. So that's how we started with this, trying to figure out what people are lied to or not. So let me just give you a couple of fun little facts too. Do you know that women lie to make other people feel good and men lie to make themselves feel good? So just thought that you'd want to maybe know that fact. And on an average day, we get lied to between 10 and 200 times a day. That's how much we get lied to. And we probably every hour tell one tiny little lie, whether it's like, oh, I have time to talk with you now, or just, minor little things that we do. Because some lies maybe are not too intrusive or bad. Children begin to lie at about age 2. That's when a child will begin to lie. And about age 7, that's when a child will pick up the body language of deception too. So just those are just some interesting information for you. People who are extroverted tend to lie a little bit easier than those who are not. And people who are handsome and beautiful typically can more so get away with lying than those who are not. Because, in the courtroom, we've seen it time after time. If someone is really good looking and they're accused of a crime, they will more than likely get off that case instead of someone who perhaps, has some kind of impediment or just is not that great looking of a person. That's a shame that we see that when we see people. And also when we're looking at people, we're looking at faces, I'm always looking for symmetry in your face. So when I look at you, Tony, I'm looking at your face. And when I look straight at you, I'm going to look at one side of your face and the other side of your face to see how much symmetry is involved in your face. So that's what we do, face language. That would be another thing that we could study and talk about. So when the face is exactly the same on both sides, pretty much that's an even keeled personality. They don't have high highs, they don't have low lows. But when someone's face is totally different, and some people you'll see that. And one great example, if you want to go study, is Lyle Lovett's face. If you looked at Lyle Lovett's face and you brought it in half and you looked at this side, it's a totally different look from this side. It's a different eye, it's a different smile. And so when you see people who the face is not symmetrical when you're looking at it, these are the people who have a lot of high highs, a lot of low lows. And when you have movies where you have a gangster, it's always going to be a guy who typically has a face that is not symmetrical. So you remember James Cagney kind of talked in the side of his mouth like this? So that would be a typical gangster. So people like Clark Gable, Brad Pitt, they have perfect symmetry. So when they're housed or cast in a program, they're cast not because they're only good actors, but they're cast because their face is a face that people seem to be able to trust more. Isn't that crazy that we think of it that
crazy? Wow.
I probably never thought of it when you're looking at so now that I can see people's faces really good and someone calls me and one side's all crazy, you know, I'm kind of thinking, do I want to have I'm kidding. Do I want to have a conversation with
you? Am I symmetrically?
Yes, you are very, very symmetrical. Your eyebrows are the same on both sides, and I know you don't color them in, but they're exactly the same on both sides. Your ears, your cheeks. So the next time you have a conversation with someone, you look at their faces. They won't know you're doing it, but just kind of look at the faces and just see. So people who are extremely handsome and extremely beautiful can more so get away with a crime than people who are not considered very nice looking. And sometimes those who are not considered nice looking would maybe be someone who doesn't have this perfect symmetry in their face. Okay.
Fascinating.
That's good. You love that, huh? Did your wife, you can look at your wife and your children a little bit different tonight when you see them, huh?
Yeah. This is fascinating. I love this. You know, that reminds me of well, I'm not going to, they say that the images that, this is an interesting thing that they say that the image that everybody perceives, obviously I'm Catholic, not that it matters, but just about every depiction of a God, whether it's Jesus or whether it's any other faiths, they say that the image is actually created symmetrically so that it's actually perfect, the spacing between the lips and the eyes, right? There's something to that. I know you've got to know about that.
That is correct.
Of the face and what's accepted as attractive kind of globally, like as an average, and they create these images that are supposed to be easier to for people to accept and believe in and understand and everything else. So that's interesting. And
Tony, look, you probably had not put that association between honesty and the facial structure. You probably had not. And so even, I can't remember if it was, what magazine, maybe it was Time Magazine, or I cannot remember, but a few years back, and I have it here if we need to reference it for people, but there was an article about, you know, the perfect face. And you're right, you know, like models that you see, those who you'll see a lot of them with the perfect dimensions here, the perfect dimension here. So I don't know exactly what the equal thing would be, but you can see them. And also in a person's face, more than likely, they're going to get their wrinkles, you know, on this side of the face, on the left side of the face, because it's the right brain that experiences sadness and joy and stress. You know, you'd think you'd have more headaches on the left brain because that's your math and your science and your history. You have more headaches on the right side of the head because this is when you're stressed, it's here. And when you're happy, it's here. When you're excited, it's here. So if this is experiencing all of your emotions and this side of my head controls this side of my face, usually the left side of the face is part of the face that'll have more wrinkles and deeper laugh lines. Like when I'm looking at your face, touch your left face. Touch your left face, Tony. You see? So because, you know, it's hard for me to tell right or left, but if you went into a mirror and you looked at yourself, you have a really a deeper laugh line on your left side than you do on your right side, because this side of your face is the face that experiences all of those emotions. That's kind of interesting to note, huh? Just interesting. And I see that you have a line here, because, you know, I studied facial recognition and reading. You see that indentation you have here, Tony, in your head is a sign of preciseness. So when someone has that in their forehead, it usually means they want everything done just right. I don't have one because I took a Botox shot years ago and it just like disappeared. But so that's why it's going to be kind of hard to read faces nowadays, because people have had shots and then you kind of can't tell what's going on. You got to say that was funny. That
was funny, actually. You know, and I will say that the right side of my face might still be a little bit more full because I got stung by a bee last week, so my face kind of.
Oh yeah, but now when you go look in the mirror, you're going to be like, but it's the left side that usually feels the most pressure. You know. Yeah.
That's interesting. So the left side of your face is the side that you feel the pressure from. So that's where you'll get more of the wrinkles and everything else.
Right, correct. And deeper laugh lines and deeper talk lines. You know, like sometimes you can tell what someone's profession is by how many lines they have, the Marriott lines around the face, because professors and lecturers are going to have big, deep lines because they have to emphasize their words so much. So if we looked even at Tony Robbins, I don't quite can recall Tony's face now, but he may have some because, you know, he's been lecturing for years. People have been lecturing for years. They probably do have that. So yeah, so when we're picking a jury, one of the things too that maybe I can kind of let people know, when we're picking a jury, think of how it is. I have a seating chart, and maybe there's 1 through 8, 9 through 16, or little squares of people. And so if that attorney is asking a question of number 32, I can make notes in number 32 square. Then at the end of the day, when the attorney is talking with me, he'll say, well, Jan, what do you think about number 32? Does she like me? Should we take her off? And I'll say, she hates you. You need to scratch her off right now. So that's how we give our input. When that attorney is asking the questions, you can't remember what each juror's facial expression was. And also when we choose a juror, we put it on a scale of 1 to 10, and the scale is satisfaction with life. And what we're trying to do is find someone who's about in the middle or a little bit above, like a 7 or 8. So satisfaction of life in life would be, we don't want a 10, because for a 10, they've had everything that they've ever wanted. Life is really, really good for them. And it's really tough for us to get a 1, because with the 1, their life has not gone successfully well. So we say satisfaction with life. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to put for yourself satisfaction with life, I mean, you'd have an 8, a 9, or 10. So you would be a good candidate for us to be, because we want someone who's impartial. If someone has had everything given to them, they may be in a court case, would not even care how that case turned out. And if someone was beaten up all of their lives, they want to beat up on that defendant too. So does that kind of make sense? It's a really easy scale. You know, anyone you meet, you can put that scale to them. And when you're talking with them, and you can kind of tell how they're going to react to you in certain situations. So that's kind of a little bit off the cuff, but it's kind of interesting to know that.
No, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm reading some of these comments, by the way, so sometimes you see me grinning. I'm reading some of these comments that are coming in here. At one point, Diana was saying, I'm fishing for compliments. I am not fishing for compliments. Which is funny, because I've never considered myself on the attractive spectrum. Let's see. So here, let's see one from Katie. My face is not symmetrical, and I'm honest and trustworthy.
Katie, when this is over, I want you to send me a picture of your face so I can see it. So look, that would be a great thing though too. Let's say for people who are dating, and you see someone across the room you think looks good, and you might want to talk with them, and you want to have children with them later, maybe it'd be better to pick someone who has a symmetrical face so that you can get your children to have the same kind of face. So it really is just a small part of this whole avenue that we study when we study with lies and with telling the truth.
That's funny. My son just held up a sign for me to read. He says, if being attractive was a crime, I'd be a law-abiding citizen. You're funny. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, that's a good pickup line too. Tell him that's a good pickup line. Hey, so before I teach you the kinds of lies that people do and then how to catch them, I also want to tell you how, if you feel that you have been lied to, that you can find out, and get them to tell you the truth. So let me just kind of give it to you this way. Let's say someone tells you something, I think they just lied to me. You cannot right away say to yourself and let them know that you think you have been lied to. What you have to do is this, and think of it this way. Every story we've ever told in our life is made up of 3 basic parts. Every story has an introduction, every story has a body, and every story has a summary. When it is a true story, there is equal time spent in the introduction to the body and the summary. An introduction is where you say to someone, oh, let me tell you what happened when I went there. The body is where you give the facts. And the summary is typically where you give emotional verbs. Like, I had such a good time. I was so excited to see everyone. So when it's a true story, you get equal time spent to each one of these. Plus, when it is true, at the very end here, you get an enormous amount of adverbs and adjectives that depict their feelings. They might want to say, I was so afraid. And you can almost feel that they were there. Also, when a story is true, it's not given to you in chronological order. They can give you something from the very end near the beginning. So that is a true story. Now, I want you to think of how a fabricated story is made up. A fabricated story has a really short introduction, a very huge body, and a really short summary. And what happens in a fabricated story, you will be given the information too chronologically exact. They might say at 5:32, I exited Walmart. At 5:45, I felt a hit on my head. So when the story is too chronologically exact, it's probably not a story that is truthful for them. And also when you're trying to determine if a story is fabricated or not, in this last area here, this summary area here, when it's a fabricated story, you will not get emotional verbs. They might say, I had to run far. Yeah, I had to run about 2 miles. But you will not get, oh, I was so afraid. You won't get that because they were not actually there. So now let's say someone has told you something and you know that they have lied to you. You cannot just say, I think you just lied. You will have to talk about something else for a few minutes. And then you come back to them and say, so tell me what happened again. And once they begin to tell you what happened, though, you have to be prepared that you have to ask them a question out of order. So they're going to start off telling you this. They're going to start off telling you this, and they have their summary ready. You have to be ready with a question from their summary to ask them right here, about right after they finish their introduction, to ask them here. That's going to totally confuse them, and because you put them out of order. So that's going to totally confuse them, and they will know that you have caught them in that lie. So never let them know that you think they're lying. Talk about something else and then come back. And so when you re-question something that you know was part of the lie, it kind of makes them nervous. I have it written this way. It says, if you expose the lie through detailed inquiry, then they're going to start getting so nervous. But what happens with people, those who are pathological liars, they typically escalate their lie. So in other words, people like I did Casey Anthony's body language during that whole story. And you remember Casey Anthony in Orlando? She would tell a lie, and then what she would do when she was caught in that lie, she'd increase the lie. You remember she said she worked for Universal Studios, and they said, okay, bring me to your office. And they went to her office, and they went down the stairs, and they went through security, and then she turned around and she said, I lied. I really don't have an office here. I don't work for Universal. But she had taken these police officers on this trail. So she was one. Casey Anthony was one that they did. Jodi Arias. Remember Jodi Arias? She was involved in a case where Travis, this guy, was killed, and she had gone miles out of her way to do it. I don't know if anybody remembers that. But all of this information that I do with lying now, that started when I worked on O.J. Simpson's case. So it started with O.J. Simpson's case years ago. Went on to John and Patsy Ramsey's case, went on to Scott Peterson's case. What was the one with Natalie Holloway? I cannot think of his name anymore.
Yeah, the one in Aruba.
I cannot think of his name. Yeah, in Aruba, that case too. So, and that was another guy. Drew Peterson was a police officer in Chicago, kept saying that his wives were drowning in bathtubs. So, and I did Burke Ramsey. Huh? Amazing.
2 drowning bathtubs.
I did Burke Ramsey. Burke Ramsey is the brother of John Benet Ramsey. He was being interviewed by Dr. Phil several years ago. So NBC had hired me to look at his body language during the interview with Dr. Phil. And it is pretty telling, but I do not think this young man had anything to do with that crime. We don't talk about it too much, but we know pretty much what happened there. And another one that is interesting, if our viewers want to I see someone said, so was OJ guilty? Yes, OJ was guilty. But another one was oh gosh, I can't. It was the story called the Jinx. The Jinx with it was a man. He's an elderly man now. He's on trial now in California, and he was accused of. There are 2 women who are missing, and they cannot find them. And so he was interviewed. There was a show called The Jinx. They had the big interview, and he told him why it wasn't him and all this. And then when the interview is over, it's Robert Durst. Robert Durst. He goes into the men's.
Right. The Durst family. Yep.
And he forgets that the microphone is on, and then he forgets the microphone is on, and says, looks in the mirror and said, "Yeah, I did it. I killed them all." So I did his body language, which was incredible. But if anybody wants to just download his body language, you'll kind of see, the things that I found there. But that, just never thinking, when I first researched this in college, that it would lead to all that we do in the courtroom and with people, being dishonest with you. And then, we watch the politicians. So what happens with people you see on television to distract you from them not lying, they're going to probably do the honesty gesture. This is about the only honesty gesture. It's taking my right hand and bringing it to my chest, my right hand to my chest with my fingers all spread out. This is honesty. The pledge, my fingers are together. Honesty is this. But you'll often find that even if someone knows the honesty gesture, they will not put the gesture in congruence with the word that they have said. They might have said, "I really love you, Tony," and then they go, "Here, too delayed." So when the gesture is too delayed, it's not a gesture that is genuine to them. So so we got a basis from that. So let me do this. I will tell you 4 things about me before I give you what what the lies are. And out of my 4, I want those of you who are listening to guess which one of mine is a lie. Because I want you to watch my eyes as I give you the stories. I want you to watch how much my nose spreads as I give you the stories. And I'm going to try to put my hands in the picture so that you can see also. So these are 4 lies. And I mean, 3 truths and 1 lie.
I'm going to take you full screen so people can see all your hand gestures. 3
truths and 1 lie. So here goes. So for A, I'm going to say this. For A, I'll put my right thumb up close to my body and I'll simply say this. I once kissed Emmitt Smith. I think all of you know Emmitt Smith played for the Dallas Cowboys. So I once kissed Emmitt Smith. For B, what I want to do is this. I want to put my hands behind my back. And I'm just going to say this for B. I used to have the same hairdresser as Barbara Bush. And then for C, let me try this. I'll put my hands this way. And then I'll do this for C because I was a Girl Scout. So I'm going to say I was a proud member of the Girl Scouts for 7 years. And then for C, I'm going to try this one. I'm going to put my hands in a steeple position, but put them downward and just simply say this. I did an article and a news show on Tom Brady's body language during the 2017 Super Bowl. So without saying just yet which one is the lie, I'm going to just ask the people who are watching, and maybe you, Tony, which one do you think out of those 4 would be my lie? So A was that I kissed Emmitt Smith. So maybe some of you listening can just put if you think it's A, B, C, or D. For B, I said that I was I used to have the same hairdresser as Barbara Bush. So if you think it's B, put down a B. For C, I said I was a proud member of the Girl Scouts for 7 years. So if you think it's C, put a C down. And D, I want you to, if you think that I did a story on Tom Brady's body language during Super Bowl 2017, I want you to put a D. So now I won't tell you just yet which one is the lie, but I want to go through some lying gestures. And at the end, I'll tell you which of those 4 is a lie, because I never want you to be lied to again. So I'm going to teach you how to catch it so that when people are telling you stories this way, you can look at several things while they're talking to signify which one was the truth and which one was not the truth. So Tony, you're okay with that? Can I see your face again? Because I can't see you now.
I'm sorry. I forgot that I was off screen. I love it. People are already commenting. I think I know which one it is personally, but we're getting A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. Okay. Should I tell you what I think it was?
Which one do you think it is?
I think it's B.
You think it's B? Okay, and B was that I had the same hairdresser as Barbara Bush. Well, we'll cover that in a second, but let me show you how to tell when someone's lying. So I want to talk about just a few seconds if people want to know this. Maybe you don't want to know this, but the lie. You want to know the kinds of lies that people give? So let me give you this, maybe just 4 kinds of lies. So the first is a lie of omission. A lie of omission is where you leave out valuable, relevant parts of a story. So someone would say, I went to the store. Maybe you bought something dangerous at the store. You went to the store, bought cigarettes and whatever else. So omission, a lie of omission is just leaving something out of the story. You have lies of reconstruction where they either try to change the character or the scene in the lie. You have lies that try to minimalize a situation. They lie about something because they said, it's not really hurting anybody, so I can probably tell them what I want to tell them right now. So that's a lie, just a how do you say the word? M-I-M-M-I-Z-A,
minimalize.
Minimalization is what it really is called. And then, of course, there's a lie of exaggeration. A lot of people do that where they're boastful. They've done something better than you, prettier than you, anything of that sort. And then, of course, the blatant lie would be a lie of fabrication where they just tell you something that's not even true at all. So just a few questions, business questions that I'm going to ask the audience and you just about it's called how good are you at spotting a liar? And just tell me which of the ones would be true or which one would be the answer. So let me say for A, I'd say this. Which tone of voice best conveys credibility? Deep and loud, high and quick, or normal, or inflecting upward at the end of the sentence. So these are my choices, A, B, and C. A, the voice would be deep and loud. The voice would be quick and high, or the voice would be normal but inflects upward at the end. Which one do you think best conveys credibility, A, B, or C? The answer here is A, deep and slightly loud to be the one that would best convey credibility. I'm going to give you another one that would be one that maybe you would use in business. So which phrase sounds most believable? Phrase A says, I feel that our company is well positioned to thrive in the new year. B, our company is well positioned to thrive in the new year. Or C, our company is well positioned to thrive in the new year. In fact, it's very well positioned to thrive in the new year. Which of these sounds most believable? The answer, I'll give you the answer. The answer is B. It's not A. And when you play this back, you'll hear them. It's not A because A gives a verb that's too subjective. I feel that our company is well positioned. That was A. B was just a natural sentence. And it's not C because it's C says the wording. If you're apologizing, you just need to apologize one time. If you apologize in every kind of form that you're giving, it devaluates that initial apology that you gave. So that's why the answer here would be B. For let me try this for number 3. Which body position makes clients feel more at ease? Slightly leaning towards them, slightly leaning away from them, or slightly leaning to one side? And of course, the answer is A, slightly leaning toward them. Okay, I want to give you one that I think that is going to be tough to gather. And when I did Bill Clinton's body language during his testimony, and Bill was caught in this way a couple of times with some of his sentences. So the question would be this. You suspect your chief financial officer of leaking information to the press, and you confront her. Which response most likely indicates that she is lying? So I'm going to give you 3 responses. You tell me which one says she's lying. A, I didn't leak any information. I'm not leaking any information. So that's all of A. B, I haven't leaked any information. I haven't done anything wrong. Or C, I'm not leaking any information. Which one maybe would be the lie? A, B, or C? Just your thought. The lie is A. And let me tell you why it's A. Because in sentences following each other, there is a change of tense. The first part of the sentence is past tense, and the second part of the sentence is present tense. So listen to the sentence again. I didn't leak any information, so that's past tense. And then she says, I'm not leaking any information. So when you have a sentence, one sentence, and in that sentence, you get different tenses in it, that typically is done by someone who is insecure with their story and not telling you the truth. So think of it, if you're going to give a sentence, give it all in the present tense. If you're going to give a sentence, give it all in the past tense. But a sentence that has change of tense in it, past to present, present to past, continually, typically indicates that there's deception in that sentence. You were going to say something I could tell from your mouth.
No, it's great because I was actually thinking, and I thought it was C because, anyway, but continue, please.
Okay, so let's try this because everyone always asks me this. Which eye behavior is indicative of deception? Eyes that look downward, eyes that move to the left, or eyes that move to the right? And the answer here is C, eyes that move to the right, okay? Because people like to kind of know that. And also, when you're looking for gestures, and I must give you some of those before our time goes up, you can't just look at one gesture. You have to at least get 3 deception gestures when someone's telling you a lie to know that they're lying to you. So let me just try this one with you, and then I'll just, okay, let me try it. Okay, let me just try this one. When delivering deceiving information, a person will most likely A, bite his bottom lip, speak slowly, or stand up using a wide stance. So when someone's lying to you, which of these 3 you think they might do? Bite their bottom lip, speak slowly, or stand using a wide stance? Of course, the answer is A. They probably bite their bottom lip. So I just want to tell you that. Let me see the last one. This is kind of funny. A person is more likely to place his hands where when he's lying? A, under his armpits, on his lap while he's being deceptive, or in a steeple position while being secretive? Which one would be the one? Under his arms. He doesn't want to let you see his hands. So I just thought I would give you some of those. They're kind of interesting that you would know. So let me give you some lying gestures so that everyone has some of these under their belt. And then I'm going to talk about sentence formation for a bit, because you just got a little hint of what sentence formation is, Tony, right? When I said past tense and present tense in the same sentence. So when someone's giving you some sentences, those are things that I'm going to look for and I'm going to listen to. So it's called statement analysis. When someone's giving us a story, we're trying to figure out from their sentences, not just their body language, if they're telling us the truth or not. So 3 big dishonesty gestures that I want to make sure that people understand and that I teach all over the world. And then I'll give you some detailed ones. Predominantly, people use the left hand when they're not telling the truth. And one of the biggest gestures that someone does when they're lying, they're going to take their left index finger and they'll slowly and nervously start rubbing on their nose while they're talking with you. And people touch the nose and bring the hand here because They're trying to distract you from the information coming out of their mouth. Because if I'm talking with you and my hand is here and I have a pretty ring, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. You're thinking, wow, that's a nice looking ring. We tend to bring a hand here to distract from another what's coming out of the mouth. And this simple gesture here came about when you were a child and you said something you should not have said. You brought both hands to your face as though you were trying to push back the information in your mouth. As an adult, you're still trying to push it back, but you're a little bit more sophisticated. And that's why you see this a person do the no motion this way. Also, you think of the Pinocchio effect. This is where this comes from. And we have this Geico commercial on television. The guy's trying to date a girl, and he tells her, he sits down, he said, you really look pretty, and his nose grows. And he said, you want to have something to drink? I want something. And nose grows higher. And then the waiter comes, he hits the waiter with his nose. So the more that someone lies, probably the longer the nose get. And when you get people, like when Bill Clinton was caught or Richard Nixon was caught, Time Magazine's going to have a picture of them with an extended nose on it, if you recall. And it goes back to this lying gesture here. The other reason that a liar may touch the nose when they're lying, it's a physiological effect. You seemingly get a tingling sensation in your nose when you're being deceptive. And because that, you end up rubbing it. And the tingling sensation, if you don't touch the nose when you're lying, the nostrils flare out just a tad. When I had done Tiger Woods' body language, when Tiger did his apology after all this serious information. And I don't know if you saw when Tiger was apologizing, but he was holding onto the podium with both hands, not as though he was frightened. He was holding on as though he was angry at the media, angry at his sponsors. This had come this way. So he never moved his hands. So I could not look at his hands and see if he was being deceptive. I had to just focus on his face. And what I noted was that every time he told us that was not true, his nostrils flared out. I'm kind of making mine flare out a bit. And when the nostrils flare out, it's indicative of someone thinking to themselves, this disgusts me to tell you, but I have to tell it to you. So when someone's going to lie, you kind of get this low. It's called a micro expression. It comes out really fast in the face. And then big lie gesture number 2 and 3. Lying gesture number 2 is taking the left hand and tugging it at the left eye. Or you see, I'm just kind of pulling down on my cheek here. That is the same thing as pulling on my eye. Someone might say they'll pull on the cheek. It says, do not see very clearly what I'm saying because I'm not being fully truthful with you. And then the third one is taking that left hand and rubbing the ear this way. This says, do not hear very clearly what I'm saying because I'm not being fully truthful with you. And a person will rub their ear because think what's going on. They're trying to distract. They want you to look here and not look here. So they're going to pull on the ears, hoping that you would look there. And so those are 3 big ones based on this one because you want to cover the mouth. This one, when you're touching your eye, it's predominantly visual people who will do that. And people who touch their ear are mostly audio people when they learn. So just think about how that goes. And these gestures are predominantly what we call displacement gestures. When people do displacement gestures are not necessary gestures. It's like if I'm talking with you and I'm constantly pulling on my lint or fixing my jacket, that's a displacement gesture. So people who do these too many times, they're probably uncomfortable with what's going on and they're not going to tell you the whole truth. So now that you have these 3, and remember, it's not that left-handed people lie more than right-handed people. It's just that those are 3 of the big ones that we have. Now, let me give you some that I think that, yeah, let me give you some that, and I'll just give you a linking, a big list of them. Also with the eyes, and I failed to mention that 3 eye behaviors that we note are associated with dishonesty are eyes that never meet yours when someone's talking with you, because eyes have to look at you about 60-70% of the time they're talking. Eyes that excessively blink when they're talking with you is a sign of deception. And eyes that remain closed for longer than necessary when someone's talking. So people who will keep their eyes closed a long time and then they tell you something, they keep their eyes closed while they're talking because they're trying to hold back information about themselves from you. So if I was interviewing for you for a job and I'd say, what happened at your last position that you left? And you start telling me something, your eyes would be closed for a long time. It usually means that you're blocking out. Let me just kind of fix this. Oops. That you're blocking out information about yourself from me. Oh, I messed up my camera, Tony. Let me see. Do I have it right? Now you can't see my head. I'm so sorry about this, y'all.
All right. All good.
But you can see my body. Well, let me try to get like this. Okay, I'm good. I'm good now for a while. So make sure that you listen, you watch someone's eyes, and also with the voice. What we have found is that when someone's stressed and strained, when lying, the vocal cords will get real tight and the voice gets exceedingly high. When someone's not telling the truth, the voice is going to probably get higher than normal. So get a baseline on their voice. And then when you ask them a question you think is a lie, I want you to listen to that baseline. You know, the voice goes higher. So let me just give you some and just ramble them off. Oh, one of the big ones is moisture that accumulates on the top lip. And this was found by Sherlock Holmes, and that was in the 1800s. The lie detector test was only invented in 1921. Yet Sherlock Holmes, who was a fictional writer, he discovered that in a book that he wrote, you know, that when people sweat here, people always think that the liars are sweating all over the place. It's right here. If you see sweat right above the lip, it usually indicates that they're being deceptive with. So that's one that I wanted to say to you. Someone who constantly clears their throat the whole time that you're talking with them, scratches the neck a few times, it means that they're experiencing some kind of conflict. Pulling on the collar means they're hot on the collar. So that's one there. Even a shoulder shrug. It's okay to do a full shoulder shrug, you know, like, well, no, I don't know. But those people who go up and then down real fast, they're hiding something, because that's called a micro expression. It's like they wanted to say, I don't know, but instead they're going to try to hold information back from you. So it's better to just give the whole shoulder shrug if you're not really, you know, telling the whole truth. Another one that I want to mention, people who play with objects, a water bottle, a glass, put something in their mouth, a pencil, a pen, or paper clip. We tend to put things in our mouth too, because we're stalling for the next words to say. So that's an interesting thing that I want people to watch for. Let me give you a few more that are quite interesting. Pretend yawns. This is a great one. People who pretend, it's okay to do a real yawn, but sometimes you see people go, and you know it's a fake yawn. Typically when it is a fake yawn, the sentence following it is a deceptive. So if I ask you a question in the courtroom and I see you doing that, I'm going to know that probably right after that is something that's not true. Another one that I want, deep swallowing is also a gesture of dishonesty. So now you won't even want to move at all. Another one that you might find that that people will do, they will shift their anchor position. By anchor position, like right now you're sitting on your butt, and if I ask you a question and you totally shifted from that, I would make note of that. If you're standing up and I ask you a question, you totally shift before you answer that question, that's shifting your anchor position. So that's either your butt or your feet. You know, if you're standing, I would make note of that. Tidying up the area, like if you're talking with them and they're fixing all the papers in front of them. So it's kind of like a sense of control. It's another displacement gesture that people do, you know, make sure the pencil sharpener's here. So, I mean, it just kind of makes you crazy after a while. And let me see what's another one that I might, when their micro expressions don't match their face. I mean, there's so many, but, you know, just a page of them. I just want to give you a few ways in which people begin sentences, that the sentence has a lie in it. And then I'll tell you which one of those 4 was my lie. And then we can close for there and we can continue another time. So a couple of sentences, there are certain words that you hear in a sentence. And when you hear those words, I want you to re-question that person, because maybe it's involved, you know, we know in the courtroom it's involved with something that's being deceptive. So the first one is what we call unfinished business. We'd say to someone, can you tell me if there was a red car at the scene of the crime? And they'll say, well, I can't tell you there's a red car, but I can tell you that there was a fire hydrant there. So in other words, they're saying to me, I know it, but I can't tell you that right now. So when you hear the words, I can't, it usually indicates that, you know, I can't, you know, I know it, but I'm never going to tell you it. And the one with unfinished business is that they'll finish a sentence and then they'll say, well, that's about it. That's all I know now. You see, they'll say that's usually associated with dishonesty. Another one that you might want to consider, and I see people on television doing this all the time, they'll say, that's a good question. You ever ask someone a question, they'll say, oh, that's a good question. Or they might say, can you repeat the question? Think of why someone's doing that. It may not be that they're being deceptive, but that is a time stall. So they're saying that so that maybe you would, you know, stall out for something. Another one is where they have complete denial instead of just saying no. Like when O.J. Simpson was asked, did you murder your wife? And he said, there is absolutely no way I could have done that, when he just could have said no. So when we call it a complete denial. It helps them to psychologically avoid an outward lie when someone says that. Another couple maybe that you want to know is that if you're asking questions and the answers are yes, no, and then they give you one that says, it begins it with, the answer is yes. You see what I'm saying? They adding 3 words in front before their yes, or the answer is no. So I'll say, did you brush your teeth today? You'd say yes. Did you drive your car? Yes. did you kiss your wife? And then you'd say, what? The answer is yes. So then that would probably be a lie to me, Tony. Just thought I would tell you that so that you would know. Another one, let's see, being too specific, even being too polite. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You know, kind of things of that sort. Even bringing up religion, that would say, as God is my witness. We question that sometimes when we hear that. And then, I mean, there's a lot, but I hope that this kind of gives, this was the last, let me end with this one. This is so good. We ask a defendant a question. Someone's on trial, we ask him a question, and it's only me and him in the room, and he says, who, me? I'm like thinking, is there someone else? Do you see anybody else in here? But if they say that, then it's probably something that's not true. So let me tell you out of my 4, which one was my lie. My lie was C. I was never a Girl Scout. I got you.
Wow, you did get me. And while I believe that Barbara, that you have the same hairdresser as Barbara Bush, but putting your hands behind you is the thing that kind of threw me off. Kind of like hiding your hands.
But this, you know, my hands behind me is a sign of courageousness and confidence. So yes, I kissed Emmett Smith at an airport in Philadelphia, and second was Barbara Bush. Yeah, years ago. Yeah. You see, I live in Houston. Barbara lived in Houston. We had the same little hairdresser. And then no, I was not a Girl Scout. But didn't that sound believable when I went like this? I had to research what the Girl Scout motto was. And then lastly, I did do a TV show for NBC on Tom Brady, on Bill Belichick, and what was this? Edelman. I did their body language during Super Bowl 2017, so that one was true. So did you get a ton of information a little from this?
So good, so good. If you've got a few more minutes, I just want to go through some of the specific questions in here. I had somebody ask the golden question. Do you have a course where you teach this stuff? And the answer is yes.
Yes. I have a course where I teach this. I have 5 books, and they're on my website. It's just janhargrave.com. And my course is www.janhargrave.com/course. And my last name is Hargrave, Hargrave. So they can get all the information there. If they, tell them to go to my website, examine my website, look at my books. And one of my books primarily deals with liars, and it's the one called Judge the Jury. It's the one that we follow. We analyze ransom notes, because think when you get a ransom note, we can look at the wording and we can tell you probably the age of the person. We can tell you the education level of the person. Sometimes we can even tell you where the person lives. So when you emphasize and you look at sentence analysis enough, you can look at anything that's anonymous and you can probably figure out who wrote it, the age level, the intelligence level, the college level, things of that sort. So yeah, please go to my website. Please look at my books. And I think I just talked my way through this. Did I just talk a lot or what?
No, listen, I think you did great. People are loving this. So like I said, I'm going to put a couple of, I already put your website. Put your website, your link. I'm going to put up your Instagram handle so people can find you on Instagram and follow you. Wait a minute. There you are. Here's your Instagram handle. So it's on Instagram. It's Jan L. Hargrave.
Right.
Is the professional one. Certainly you can get me as well at Tony Rodriguez 2.0. So that is
my Facebook is Jan Hargrave and Jan L. Hargrave. I have 2 of them. I'm sorry,
awesome.
Tony was saying something.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'm just going to put that one up again while I go through some of these questions. So someone asked here, how about people who cover their mouths when they talk? Narcissistic? That we covered. I don't know if we covered this time, but that is usually a lie, right?
If they cover the mouth, they're probably trying to cover information. But you must, and when I look at lying gestures, don't the first time that they touch the nose of their mouth say that they're lying. You re-ask them that question several times in different ways. And if you ask it several times and you get the same kind of expression from them or the same body language, then you're pretty sure that they're lying to you. So make sure that you see that.
Another great question comes from Alexandra. She says, what if someone knows NLP? They can totally fool someone. Unfortunately, yes.
But what happens is when we get you on the witness stand, we will wear you down. And what happens is we call it leakage, Leakage. The body will eventually leak out its true feelings because we'll question you over and over and over again until finally we'll get a read on you. So even if someone knows NLP, or even if I know body language and I'm being questioned, buddy, I'm nervous too. So I could maybe try this. Or if I go for a doctor's visit, I think it's some bad news, and I'm looking at the doctor, and I'm not even thinking about anything I know about body language. I'm so nervous watching that doctor. So, you know, sometimes we don't have it fall in the same way. I see this is a good question about people who fall in the autism spectrum. And I've worked with some mothers of children. I think that understanding body language in that sense, I've worked with a few people on that. I think it's really good because I know some autistic children do use sign language, and maybe some of them do use some body language. So if you want, one of the books I did, the one is Let Me See Your Body Talk, and that's for Ashley. That might be good for a parent who wants to know something about how to use nonverbal communication with a child on the autism spectrum.
I love it. I love it. Let's see what another question here. Actually, another guy, Steve says, I'm never using my left hand ever again when talking.
I don't blame you, Steve.
Katie says that her nostrils flare all the time when she talks. So crazy, but she's not a liar. She's just demonstrative.
And you know what? I want people to be demonstrative because depending on your nationality, I think it's great. Because Tony, are you Italian?
I'm Portuguese.
Okay, you told me that. But I mean, look, you talk with your hands. I'm French. I talk with my hands. So I want people who are listening to talk. That's how I see your sweet, nice, genuine personality is when I can see your hands. So never just be stiff. You let people see your hands, and you use them in a nice format that you're loving to people and kind to people, even when you're moving. You don't want to be straight and like this. You know, this is too much movement, solid. You have to kind of flow a little bit sometimes with your hands.
Absolutely. Amanda asks a great one. She says, well, grammar isn't a strong suit, you naturally combine tenses. That's why you get a baseline, right?
Yeah, that's right. You get a baseline on that person. And now, but what's happened with the people who are watching and with us, we've created an awareness in our listeners, and they're going to be in a conversation later on, and maybe they'll think, oh, I just put, past tense with present tense. So that's the only thing we need to do is create an awareness. And when you know that, then you're more on guard of it, or you're kind of watching it. But to watch for it in other people, because you know when you're sincere and you know when you're honest. Even if you have to restate the sentence a second time correctly, just make sure that you do it.
Absolutely. People saying that they want to take you with them on their next date.
Yes, please take me with you on the next date.
There were some great ones here in the beginning. Okay, I can't go up any higher for whatever reason, but one of the ones that I think it was Anne-Marie that asked early on, I just didn't want to interrupt the flow, was how can she tell if her teenager is lying?
Well, as I said, about age 7, they're going to take on the gestures of dishonesty. So really, I wish that they had all this paperwork that I have, but at least you got a few hints of what are some gestures. So when you ask them a question, you see either they're doing this too much, touching the nose, touching the eye, touching the ear. And then you need to re-question that because probably they're hiding information from you. And I tell people, if you feel that you are being lied to, you're probably being lied to. So you have a gut reaction. Right? And the way to catch them is to make them tell you their story over and over again. And when they tell it to you, you need to get them out of the structure that they have memorized it in, and they're going to know that they are caught. And then you go to punish them like you want to punish them with grounding them.
Yeah, beautiful. And one of the good ones, the easy ones, is when you ask somebody a question, do they look up and to the left or up and to the right? If they look up and to the right, they're making something up, right?
Yeah. Or if they look down, they're going to give you probably an emotional answer, and they're trying to avoid your eyes.
Yeah.
But you can't just base it on the eyes. You got to look at 2 other, because I want you to always have 3 signals of dishonesty to be sure that that person is being dishonest with you.
Awesome.
Clusters of gestures.
Well, listen, I just want to invite everybody to absolutely, let me just put up your website again. Go onto Jan's website, log on, get that program, fantastic. Get the books. The books are spectacular. I've got them. I've got to remember to keep going through them. And I got to tell you, the thing that was painful, and when I was grinning when you were saying this and that, and I think I've told you this before, but my ex-partner used to do all of that. He used to do all of that when he was speaking, pulling on the eye, all of it. I mean, he was textbook. This
is one too, pulling on the nose, pulling down on the nose.
Just like he's cleared his nose or something, and there's something in his eye. I'm like, and I would ask myself, what the hell's in your eyes? Like, I just and he's like pulling on his eye as he's speaking. So man, I tell you, So pay attention, everyone. I hope you guys took as many notes. Listen, I must have taken, even though it's on an iPad, I must have taken 6 pages of notes. So I hope everyone took notes because it's so, this is like one of my favorite topics. And I think it was Liba that was on here that said.
Everyone loves this topic. Everyone loves it.
She said it was her favorite part of Leadership Mastery, Leadership Academy it was you, because seriously, this is so good. This is gold. This is so cool.
Because in life, we all have to, negotiate with people on anything from a line in the grocery store or whatever. So knowing some nonverbal communication, I think, is just a big win-win situation. I'm glad that we did this, Tony, and that I could help them with dishonesty gestures and that they have. But I think that people learn some things and understand why some things are just, dishonest, and they can watch for that in their next, whether it's virtual communication or in person, you can still, this is better that I can really see your face well, and I can look for symmetry in everyone who I talk with.
Oh, this is great. And like I said, and something you said towards the end is so important. If it feels like you're being lied to, that's when you really turn this stuff on. Yeah. Right. Because every now and then you talk to somebody like, it just doesn't feel right. That's when you remember, okay, just focus on that. So, okay, what did Jan say? If he touches his eye, if he touches his nose, if he's covering his mouth or touches his ear, is he looking up or down or to the left, or where's he looking? Turn these things on, reread these notes, because these are good. And honestly, I wish I had, I guess when I was seeing these things, I had already known some of them. Sometimes you just, you have that scotoma that you're choosing not to see what's right in front of you.
Today you really saw it, huh, Tony? Today you got.
Oh my God, I remember it so vividly. Again, listen, and I know that you were on with Sean and with the Unblinded movement. I know you had a great time with that, but sometimes this helps us to become unblinded, right? Be unblinded.
Yes, yeah. In fact, I'm going to do a segment on Unblinded tomorrow. They have these surprises coming on, because when I did it, mine is watching their body language and helping them and critiquing a little bit, and I think that was a benefit, because I could help them with that, and Sean and some of the other judges could help them with, were they saying the right words when they were pitching their sales to someone else. So it really worked out so well. We'll do some more together, I think, too.
I'm glad it was a great ecosystem merger. I look forward to having you, on my team, so to speak.
We're together.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that afterwards. Listen.
My team only consists of people with symmetrical faces, though. I'm kidding. Look, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm lucky because I had a massive car accident. That's good. I like that.
That's so crazy. I know, but I bet you'll be looking for that with people. So, Sean, thank you very much. It was a wonderful show. It's fun for me. We'll do it again.
Yeah. And listen, thank you again for being on here with us and my audience. It is always such a great time. I so love having you on here. I really do. I really enjoy, well, you know that. I love you. You're one of my favorite people in the environment, certainly. And I love having you on here and sharing with all my friends that are watching here. And if you're watching, please share this, because this could solve so many problems for you in the future, or prevent problems in your business, in relationships. Listen, sometimes even catching yourself doing things, because sometimes you do, maybe that's just a nervous tick and people don't know that that's a baseline, because the people that learn these little tips and they heard this, they heard that, if they don't understand that they've got to get a baseline, and you touch your face all the time when you're speaking, just be conscious of that, because you may not necessarily be lying, but the person may know a little bit, and that makes it dangerous. And so just be more conscious of your hand gestures, your facial gestures, and everything else. And how much could this help you in your business, in hiring people, in firing people, in having conversations with clients, with employers, with everyone?
And Tony, even doing interviews on the computer now, through virtual conversations, just think what you could figure out. And so try to get them to sit where you can see a little bit of hand motion when you're talking with someone, because, if I'm just like this, you're just looking at my face when I'm talking with you. So if you can kind of get them, you might want to say, could you just back up a little bit, so we're at the same level, so they can kind of mimic the way that you're sitting. So you can see how they're going to use their hands when they're talking with you too. I would suggest that would be a good thing. And
one of the things that you said that is awesome is, I would say, because again, a lot of people know about the steeple thing. Right. People know about the steeple. A lot of people, just make sure that the timing, pay attention to the timing, because if they start to say, and all of a sudden you see their hands go into a steeple real quick, you're like, oh, you must have learned that somewhere, you know? So just try to be conscious. Listen, knowledge is potential power, right? It's not power unless you act on it, but this kind of knowledge is power, both on both sides of it. Whether you're having a conversation, you want to make sure that you're not exhibiting any of those characteristics. And more importantly, it's what you're taking in, right? Make sure that you're not being lied to, deceived. And if you're looking to make an investment, you're looking to get investment of time or whatever, pay attention. Listen, go back and watch this episode again. I know I'm going to watch this episode again. This is so good. This is so good.
It was my pleasure, darling. We'll stay in touch. We can do something. I love you.
Yeah, I love you back. Don't go away. Don't go away. So yes, please find Jan, get her course. Her course is amazing. Her books are amazing. So get them. She is an absolute rock star. Follow her on Instagram, follow her on Facebook. She is one to watch. And just be careful because she might be watching you.
That's right. Don't call me from webinar because I'll be looking at everything and things.
So good. Well, listen, my friends, I appreciate all of you. Make sure that you share this and tag people that need to hear this. Your friends in business, your friends in life, right? Anyone that you know, tag them. Everybody needs to know this. So with that said, my friends, I appreciate you. And just know that life is not about how many times you fall. It's about getting up after every fall. And it's in falling down that we learn, and it's in getting up that we grow. And every single time we fall, we have the opportunity to get up and grow we must. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Ciao.